Hello, my beautiful humans, you amazing movers and shakers. This is Lesedi Ali. I'm a spiritual life coach and psychic advisor, and welcome to the Lesedi Life podcast. So if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button so that you can get more helpful and uplifting content on your journey. And be sure to hit the like button so you can help me with making more of this amazing content for you. Now, let's get into it. Tonight's topic is documenting your agreements. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story so you can see why and how this fits in, okay? So I remember a time in my life when I was heavily involved in a church, and I was recently kicked out of the only place I had that I could live in Orlando. And thankfully, one of the sisters from this church actually invited me to come stay with her. And that was a blessing for real, because I was pregnant, for starters, and I had a dog that I was holding on to because of this connection, and I just could not let her go. I was heavily manipulated and abused by my boyfriend at the time, and he was using this dog as an emotional tie for this life he kept promising me we would have together. So in any case, she took a pregnant woman and a dog in. Okay, so I'm living with this sister, and we get along really great, except for when we didn't. I'd ask for help with it. They'd say, be kind, turn the other cheek, so on and so forth, And I would write down my experiences about this, concerning whatever situation, how it made me feel and so forth, in my journal at the time. Now, this woman would always apologize. She was really a sweetheart at her core, but 2 to 3 weeks later, she'd be right at it again. I was as humble as I could be, considering I had no place else to go. So, you really think I'm trying to ruffle this woman's feathers? No, I'm not. Okay, so still, it was the hardest thing to keep my peace and to learn what it was in keeping the peace, right? This was a really sensitive moment in my life. So other sisters would help, but there was seriously no change in the behavior. Years later, I'd moved out, I'd gotten out of that church, I'm doing other things with my life, and on my, self-help, spiritual healing journey, I found my journal one night while I was cleaning, okay? I was reading the entries, and it was daunting how abusive this person really was to me. And then I saw all of these notes from her apologizing to me as well. It was so crazy. I remember thinking she was always saying sorry, but she never changed. I sat with that years later, realizing I was dealing with the same situation in a relationship that I was in, okay? I had 2 senses in that time, right? And then in the past, where I'm recognizing something's off here. This is literally a pattern in my relationships, right? So I could see the law of reflection in plain sight at this time. And we know we get what's inside of us, always, without fail. And if we don't learn from our past, we're doomed to repeat it again, so that we learn, all right? Now, I made a promise to myself back then, in that time, to no longer take that kind of treatment, and to do better for myself. But life was lifing, right? And I ended up right back in the same kinds of relationships with my work and with my relationship years after that, okay? Right back to the original programming, if you will. So this is why we should be documenting our agreements. I heard the other morning, Spirit say to me, it's always important to record our agreements, and your agreements with yourself, your agreements with your family or your friends, and especially the agreements you make with your partner. When sitting with this, I could really sit down and think about each recorded agreement, and how it's helped me to better have a look at the bigger picture. And remember the devil in the detail, for real. Let's be real, life be lifing. And we can forget all too easily the agreements that we made to help us move forward into a future that we prefer, as opposed to repeating the pattern that we would rather not, okay? Do you journal by chance? And if you do, if you don't, you should. But if you do, what's in there? It's important that we know what we're aiming for in our healing journey and in this transformation process. For me, it was the way I treated myself and how I allowed others to treat me. In other areas of my life, it may be my parenting or the way that I communicate with people in general. I always want to be objective, in that space so that I can fully hear and see the other person. But as an adult with past traumas, who was the child of parents that struggled with their own traumas in silence, right? That has not been the easiest task. So I began writing my experiences down and my goals from a day-to-day, mindset. And when shit hit the fan, or I'd reach a certain point, I'd get the notion to go back and look at a few entries in my journal, or maybe even look at it from the start to where I was now. And page after page after page, I could see where I, should have been giving more, or I was begging for things that should have been a given, right? I was hiding things that I should have been open about. I was fearing things that I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't help it. So from there, lying before me, I could see a clear picture of what things I needed to change. And I still do from time to time. And I knew that these things were happening because I could see them. It wasn't me feeling like I was crazy or going back and forth in my head, but I could see it, and I could see that it needed to change because I was, kind of going against the natural flow of what my body or my ego automatically wanted to do, right? And I'm looking to change that behavior so that I can get where I'm trying to be for myself and for feeling whole and loved and me, right? It might be easy for some of you to just write off certain things like that, but for some of us, if you found me, if you're on this channel, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Now, I'm on this healing journey just like you, and understanding why we make the choices that we make, where they come from, like that's the gold. Even more so, why we might talk to ourselves the way we talk to ourselves, because that's what makes us allow the things that we allow, even when we don't want to. So to fight this blind spot, you have to be willing to write down the things that go on in your head, especially the things that go on in your heart, so you can better understand who you are and who you've become. And you'll have a better picture on who you're trying to become and what you want to be. So that brings me to my next point. And these agreements, don't just make them because they sound good. Oh, I want this and I want this and I want to change that. Okay, yeah, this looks good, or base it off of who you see online, right? The issue that you want to look at is when we make up these agreements, you want to ask questions that you've reflected on. What's going on with you or the people around you? Question yourself, first of all right? And if you have to, question your higher power. And especially question your divine support team, Pay attention to your dreams, your intuitions that follow with that. Some things might come right away, so make sure you're listening more than you're talking, right? Be sure you write those things down too in your journal or in another spot, but write them down, because I promise you, if you can do that much on your healing journey, it will be so much better. You'll be better off for it. It's one of the many ways that you can actually start to take your power back and make informed decisions based on what's in front of you, the info in front of you, okay? So let's say, for example, you write down an agreement that you made with your partner, okay? We're gonna speak kinder to each other. We're gonna take date night more seriously. We're yeah, go, good, But at every turn, you're still making the same mistake, and they're still making the same mistake, or you're making excuses, or they're making excuses, whoever it is, for 2 months straight. And you just hit this boiling point and you guys are arguing again, but you go back and you look at your journal and it's clear to you that there's been no change. This was a big argument, but that was forgotten and this was forgotten and he said this and I said that and da. You can see it, okay? So now we start asking questions. What do we do with this? Do I break up? Do I want it? Is it worth saving? Do I want to save it? Why or why not? Being completely honest with yourself through every idea, right? We make our next move from there in alignment with the best choice that's based on a complete, honest, loving, respectful place for ourselves, as well as the other person. But for us first, right? They may or may not even get it, but that's okay, because that choice will make a world of difference for the both of you. Another example, like let's say it's with you, it's a more personal perspective or issue, right? Let's look at your job. You journal one week after another that, you know, things aren't going the way you really want them to go. You know, you're not getting the help that you really want for real. You have no more morale about the job. There's low self-esteem. You don't feel yourself growing. Well, okay, why are we here for real? Okay, why are we here? Is it helping us grow? Am I getting where I want to be mentally, emotionally, education-wise? Like, is it more benefits involved? Do I get more money? Do I need more money? Ask yourself the hard questions, and then you make a decision from that space based on the particular experiences that you've been having, and you make a decision about your future from a well-informed space, not because you're self-loathing and hating the job and hating the people and you blame everyone else for everything that you don't like about it. This reality is set up to help you learn about you and the world around you, as well as where you fit into it in most cases. So document your experiences for real and pay attention to the agreements that you make. It's remarkable the amount of unaware agreements that we make, right? Like, have you ever been there? Like you make an agreement or you say yes to something and you really didn't even mean to say yes to it. I remember like with this abusive relationship, right? I remember telling this person I loved them so much, I would do anything for them because I needed to be needed, right? And this person tested me at every chance they could, reminding me of what I said, taking complete and total advantage of my naivety and how well I didn't understand the things that I really wanted except what I thought I needed, right? And I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And it took years for me to figure out like what I think, what I believe about myself has everything to do with the agreements that I make. I won't take certain jobs anymore unless I can see the benefit long term in any compromise that I have to make. I will not make certain friends or keep certain people in my life. I wouldn't do certain things anymore. I don't even entertain certain conversations because I know somewhere in there you might need me to agree to something that I would rather not agree to, okay? And I'm so quick to call it out, so you better be clear on what you're getting at real quick. But really, the universe is always listening, man, always listening. So be mindful what you tell it. Write your stuff down so you can be mindful what you're telling you, okay? Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more. I really hope this was beneficial. I love you. Namaste.